multiple cats now and multiple dogs. So I'm excited to help you all out. Awesome. It looks like a great group tonight. Let me reshare my screen. We'll go through your intros here as I continue, yes, to play with Bernie since I stopped playing and he decided to remind me that I was not upholding my part. I'm sorry about that, buddy. Yes, we can play more. Play more. Here you go. And Ash, you're being a very good boy. Ash sometimes gets a little grumpy when the cats are playing too close to him. So I am proud of him for making good life choices right now. It's always a balance when we have multiple learners at the board, right? All right, so a bit of housekeeping as we dive into y'all's intros here. For best experience, we do recommend utilizing Chrome or Safari. If you have any trouble hearing, any trouble seeing anything on your screen, sometimes just changing the browser can help. We have Irma here from FluentPet, who is happy to assist with all of that, our wonderful community coordinator. We also have Calvin from FluentPet here today as well. So love that we've got wonderful help from them. So please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything we can assist with. And then on the agenda today are introductions, which we're doing right now. Then we'll chat through the keys to button teaching, modeling, first words, and target training. This is an interactive discussion, so feel free to ask questions throughout in the chat as well. In the chat's just a little bit easier for me to keep track of and make sure that we cover everything and that we can cover it when makes the most sense for you. Tie it all together. Then I'll share additional resources. Be on the lookout in the chat throughout as well for resources being shared. Irma's great about keeping up with that. And then we'll have time for more Q&A afterwards as well. Hello and welcome, Olivia and Bindi, 8 years old, black and tan coonhound. So fun. Trish and Starla, welcome to you too, 4-year-old cat. 2 buttons she presses regularly, but will sometimes button spam. Good to know. Trying to figure out what buttons to add next. I have some ideas. Awesome. Yeah, happy to chat through that. Do you want more play, Bernie? Ashley, welcome to you. And August and Fitz, 4-year-old cats. Just bought my buttons a week ago, just starting. Great to know. Thank you. And Tyler, welcome to you. And Ziva, 2-year-old German Shepherd Pit Bull mix. Oh my gosh. So fun, so much energy, I'm sure. Just started training her, haven't gotten her to understand the buttons yet. No worries, we'll talk about what that looks like. Jennifer, welcome to you and Suzanne. 2 years old and actually perfect. I believe it. That's fantastic. Jenny, welcome to you and your chocolate labs, 1 and 2-year-olds, Shady and Jed, and 2 Siamese and Black Cat. Love it. So you've got a multi-species household similar to mine here. Jed has taught himself to use the buttons, sort of. Shady lets Jed do all the work. And if my male Siamese figures out how to use them, he will not stop talking. I believe it. And real quick, because I'm going to keep reading your intros, don't worry, but because I'm getting some water presses from Bernie, this is a great example for you all to kind of see. I'm assuming that these are probably connection seeking presses. He, I doubt, actually wants water, but we want to still model what it is that they're pressing. We want to presume competence, and we want to show them that the buttons have a consistent outcome each and every time. So I know that he has water. You've got plenty of water right here, bud, but I can still go ahead and add a little bit more. I can show him. And in my cat's cases, since they are a bit visually impaired, yes, water. Bringing things to the board not only helps Katie see it, Bernie can see, okay, oh, pumpkin, but it also just reiterates that the board is where all the action happens, that they're controlling the outcome, and when they're pressing a button and I'm available to follow through, you better believe that I'm going to be doing my best to do so. So you already pressed water. Yeah, you have water. Pumpkin, again, was most likely accidental, and sometimes these are just, again, general attention seeking, connection seeking. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly valid use of the board. So I showed him the pumpkin and he was like, wait a second, I don't care about that. I don't want that. And so it actually got him to walk away. And he's going over to play with a different toy now. I wasn't trying to make him walk away, to be clear, but he's pressing a button. I bring over something and he's like, that's not what I want. Not only am I reinforcing that button, enhancing the connection. The pumpkin equals the pumpkin coming out of the fridge. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I know what that is. And I don't want that actually right now. So follow through, even if you know it's something, that was an accident or that they don't want, assuming it's not punishing. Him smelling pumpkin is not the end of the world. It wasn't upsetting to him. He was just like, that's not what I want. So great learning opportunity. All right. And so we have 2 female German Shepherds, ages 4 and 2, just received the buttons last week, started with 4 buttons: outside, dinner, water, and treats. Okay. So far, the 4-year-old is more interested than the 2-year-old. Good to know. Paula, welcome to you. And Remus, part Siamese, smart and wants outside all the time. That is Bernie. So I think that is what he actually wants. I don't know if you can see him by the back door here. That is his, that seems to be what he is actually looking for. Bernie outside tomorrow. Unfortunately, he needs supervision, so he is out of luck. It's going to be tomorrow before he gets to go back out, but he got a nice long adventure already. So yeah, you can have more puzzle. That's where we can try to give them other things that we can say yes to. That way, ideally, they're not getting too frustrated with not being able to go out. So in Remus's case, one's outside all the time, but they have catio, kitty wheel, and he's harness trained. Still gets upset because he gets bored. So hoping the buttons help alleviate that stress. Absolutely, yeah. So that's where, again, thinking about things like the puzzle or play buttons, different activities that are easy to say yes to. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but the more we can say yes to their presses, the better. Let's see. Russell has 3 cats, ages 4, 5, and 5. Awesome, welcome. And Trish says that they have a 10-month-old kitten too, but he doesn't use the buttons yet. Nice, and they can absolutely be learning from each other. When my kittens first came home, my border collie was adamant that she was going to model the buttons and demonstrate them all for the cats. And in fact, seemed very surprised that cats don't all know the buttons, because my previous cat learned at the same time as Adora. And so as soon as the new cats came home, she started pressing and looking at them expectantly. And it's like, they don't know yet. They don't understand. So they absolutely can help each other learn. It's so much fun to watch that in progress. Lisa says we have 4 cats, but one for sure we think who will want to use the buttons. Their names are Lilo, Dallas, Multipass, Love It, 2-year-old Tabby, One-Eyed Willie, 22-month-old Tabby, River Song, 2-year-old Diluted Torty, and Stormy, 15-and-a-half-year-old Torty. Fantastic. Thank you all so much for the info and intros here. If anybody hasn't had a chance to yet, feel free to do so. I'll see it as it comes through. And we're going to dive into kind of the meat of our presentation here. So I mentioned my blind cat, Jasper. That's her with the buttons there. She's unfortunately since passed, but her legacy is that I now have 2 visually impaired kittens who are my button users, and who I don't think I would have been quite as confident about having cats without vision use buttons if not for her showing me that it is no problem whatsoever. So a little bit more about us. While Alexander Rossi and Christina Hunger were using buttons previously with their learners, FluentPet is the original button teaching system. And so what does that mean? It means that our mission is to figure out how to teach dogs, cats, and the other animals we share this planet with how to talk, or an approximation of it. And we believe that pulling this off will take a village, a community that can develop and share button teaching tips and tricks and work together to discover the most successful button teaching approaches. So that's where you all come in. Our success in this mission entirely depends on your success with your learners. And the more of us who are able to progress, the faster we can figure out just how far all this can go. And in case anyone's wondering how far can all this go, we think this video really helps paint a picture of what's possible, and you'll probably recognize Alexis and Bunny. My internet.
The foundation for getting started with buttons is just a desire to connect. I can't remember the exact order, but I think she pressed stranger mad, and I was like, what does that mean? And then ouch paw. And she came over to me and she put her left paw in my hand, and I was like, okay. And I looked between her toes and she had a foxtail stuck between her toes.
This was the stranger in her paw. She's got a mat between her toes.
buttons can do these amazing things. Like mentioned my client cat Jasper, she was able to request medication multiple times after having an eye procedure with eyes help or some combination of that. And it's not all medical related. There's lots of fun examples too. One of my favorite early ones was with Scout, a Catahoula mix, who would repeatedly combine water and bone. Took us a little while to figure out what she wanted and got the researchers involved, but we finally figured out that it was ice cubes. And so she got an ice cube button and was able to advocate for herself in that way. So it really is amazing how creative they can be, even with a limited vocabulary. Right. And so how do we begin? For those of you who are at the very beginning of your button teaching journey, our first step is going to be modeling. And before you have your buttons set up, or if you're still waiting for them to get shipped to you, you can be doing this verbally. Talk to your learners all the time. Narrate what they're doing, what you're doing. Try to be specific with your language. Pay attention to the language that you're using and try to be consistent. But know that, none of us are robots. We're all only human. We don't have to be perfect, but the more consistent we can be, the easier it can be for our learners. And if you have multiple humans in your household, if somebody calls taking them outside to go potty, and the other person says, hurry up, that might be too confusing for them to start off with that concept. So picking things that you and your household are already on the same page about, and that's easy for you to say yes to the press, tends to be a really great shortcut to both set us and them up for success, so that we're capturing their excitement, their enthusiasm around the board, and teaching them that this is an amazing tool that they now have available to them. So we have a few simple steps to begin. Once you have your buttons set up, first you're going to press that button, something that you can immediately and frequently follow through on, something that you can say yes to. And step 2 is to actually follow through. Show them the meaning of the word by making it happen. So Bernie was pressing food buttons, he was pressing play, I'm narrating play, I'm pressing play, and then I'm following through by engaging with a toy with him. And then step 3 is repeat. Go back to step 1, repeat, repeat, repeat. It's a lot of repetition, especially early on, while we're helping them understand that the buttons have a consistent outcome each and every time. And the speed at which they pick this up, it's going to depend. They're all individuals. It's going to depend on their motivation, whether or not there's somebody else already speaking for them in the household. If there's another learner who's kind of pressing the buttons, then they might feel like they might not have to. We'll talk about how to troubleshoot all of that. And we have mentorship calls specifically around multi-learner households as well that I'll talk about in our continuing education. But we'll have lots of ways to help with that. But know that the speed in which they pick up buttons has no bearing on their long-term success. And in fact, some of our most successful pressers to this day took months, even sometimes, weeks, multiple months before they would press independently. So stick with it, keep modeling, stay consistent, and often they will go ahead and pick it up. And we'll talk about as well how to motivate them with different choices of buttons as well. But for right now, just commit to saying yes to their presses and try to think about things that you can model 10 to 15 times throughout the day. So that's where in Kelly's case, in this video that we're about to hit play on, you'll see that she picked things that she can model many times with her learner Delmer. So the video we're about to watch, this is the first 24 hours that they had buttons down in their household. So you'll see just how much repetition they're doing.
Puzzle. Outside. 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 Puzzle. Outside. Pets. Puzzle. Outside. Outside. Pets. Puzzle. Puzzle.
Yes. Beautiful accidental press.
Puzzle. Puzzle.
Accidental presses are great learning opportunities.
Outside. Puzzle. Outside. Puzzle. Outside. Outside. Outside.
So again, it's a lot of repetition, especially early on, because again, we're helping them understand that the button has a consistent outcome each and every time. So the easier it is for you to say yes, the easier it is for you to model throughout the day, the more they tend to be set up for success overall. But also know that these are general best practices that we're discussing today. This isn't the only way to do it. If you've already had success, fantastic. I'm not here to tell you you're doing anything wrong. There are lots of methods to get success. These are just generally what works for the majority of households. So often that repetition piece is key, though sometimes, and within my own household, with my little senior guy napping behind me, he was happy to respond if I was pressing, if someone else was pressing, totally content to react. But it wasn't until I put a puzzle button down and he realized that he could press puzzle and I would follow through by getting him a Kong out of the freezer. He was like, oh, wait a second. I want to press this actually. I want this to be followed through on for me as well. So that's not something I could say yes to 10 or 15 times, right? That's something ideally maybe for a small dog every other day or once a day max. But it was rewarding enough. It was motivating enough that it was still worthwhile as a button to use for him. So something to think about there. Different methods, but you can still have a similar outcome of them wanting to follow through and wanting to press independently. All right. So in addition to modeling all throughout the day, you might find that it's advantageous to do some rapid modeling. And this can be with food, something like a food button. That's what will be demonstrated in the video now. But it can also be, hi Delmer, it can also be something like a play button that you're pressing and then throwing a toy for your learner, a ball for them to retrieve, pulling out a wand toy, a feather toy for your cat, something like that. But here's Kelly and a different learner, Nushka. Nushka is new to the buttons and is very food motivated, so instead they're working on the snack button. So notice that Kelly's pressing snack, the button, with a piece of food to help encourage the connection of food. This button equals food. Food is appearing. You are getting food and rapidly pairing food, button, and food, button, food there. And they use as a general option so that it can mean a piece of kibble, it can mean a treat, it can mean just anything between mealtime. Myself, and I know Calvin as well, use a general eat the same way, a way to, press a button while we're eating, while anybody else in the household is eating, and narrate, that mom eat, Katie eat, Bernie eat, whoever it is in my household. So that's where you can be modeling pretty easily multiple times throughout the day with that eat or food or snack button. Puzzle just below it here in our examples of starting words is also a food button. That's one that might take a little bit more time for them to work through. Maybe they're going through cardboard shredded or like paper with treats hidden through it. Maybe it's a puzzle that has, like, it's a stuffed Kong, as I mentioned for Ash. Maybe it's something that they've got to paw the kibble out of. You can experiment with different options like that. But I love using puzzle because you can say yes, and then it takes them longer to work through. And it's not just us needing to be a vending machine, which is fantastic. There's nothing wrong with being a vending machine, but you might not have the time and the ability to say yes that many times in a row. So that's where that puzzle button can save you and be an option to say yes. So be thinking about setting yourself up for success. We do want to start with 2 or 3 buttons, more than one, to help them realize that different buttons mean different things. And ideally, our starting buttons should be motivating and meaningful to your individual learner. And they're all different, right? Easy and convenient for you to model immediately and say yes to, and concrete or actionable. We don't want to start with too complex of concepts, too difficult of things for us to follow through on, because the soundboard itself is an abstract tool. So they're learning how to use these abstract buttons as it is. Adding abstract concepts with this abstract tool, it's very tough to combine. So instead, that's why we want to start with these easier to understand, easier to follow through on buttons. And so Calvin added, we started with eat, play, and brush. Yeah. And so other examples of common starting buttons are like play and toy, or outside, pets, scritches, that's another popular one. Some way of physically connecting with them. Brush is another great option that a lot of cats in particular enjoy in that regard. And it's up to you whether you start general or specific. We began in my household with the general play, but we have now specific toys down on the board. We also began with the general eat, and Jenny, I'll go in more depth there in just a moment. But we started with the general eat, and it has now gotten specifically into wet food, kibble, pumpkin, water, and my cat Katie in particular loves to tell me when she wants pumpkin added to her meal. And so she has a button specifically for that, even though we began with the general eat. For my border collie Adora, we began with a general play, or excuse me, we began with a general, or we began with the specific of ball instead for her, because ball is life. But then we were able to switch to the general play as well. And so Jenny commented, I originally got my buttons more than a year ago, and I feel like the instructions said never to start with food-related buttons. Has that changed? Yes, it has. The buttons that I originally got as well 4.5 years ago came with explicit instructions to never use food. Don't do it. Just avoid it. And we were concerned at the time that all the buttons would equal food to them, that they would think that, that was all that they would get. They wouldn't be differentiating. They wouldn't actually be listening to what it is that the sound that's coming out of each button. But what we found over the years, with more time, with research, is that if they're going to ask for food, they're going to do it regardless of whether or not they have a food button down. And in fact, it's such a highly motivating button for so many of them that we're missing out by avoiding putting it on the board. And I actually began with a food button specifically for Jasper, my blind cat, because everything said at the time, don't do it. They'll become obsessed. All they're going to want to do is press that food button. Well, she had leukemia. Her vets wanted her to gain weight. We weren't sure how much longer she was going to live. And so I said, you know what? Fantastic. Let's add a food button. I want her to become obsessed with food. I want her to be fattened up. And the opposite wound up happening. And so many other households have found the same. Jasper went from, when she was healthy, gorging herself to the point of regurgitation around food, being a feral kitten who had no chill whatsoever when food was in front of her, to realizing that she could push a button and I would follow through. I would say yes. We began this at the beginning of the pandemic during lockdown. So I was around all the time. She would press food. I'd say yes and follow through. And it revolutionized her relationship. It was no longer a limited resource. And it became less valuable in the end as a result, which in her case was a good thing. She was obsessed. It was an unhealthy relationship when she was feeling healthy enough to eat, right? And so she was able to tell me exactly what she wanted, that she was all done. She would leave food in her bowl after getting food buttons because she could tell me all done with the press of a button. And I'd take it away and then bring it back out and it'd still be fresh as soon as she wanted. So it wound up being so incredibly valuable for her that I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start with my new cats with it as well. And Bernie, my one-eyed guy, maybe uses the food buttons every few days because I'm still offering meals. There's still wet food available to them freely. But he tells me, if his puzzles are empty, if he wants a different wet food, that sort of thing. And it's been so, so valuable. And we've seen again with many, many households now where Bernie, inside now, sorry guys, you were trying to break out. You were trying to open the door. We got to settle inside. We can play inside. How about play inside? Play inside, outside, all done. Sorry, but we've seen time and time again where even the most food obsessive learners, once they realize we're going to say yes, it becomes less exciting. It becomes less valuable and can be a really very valuable button to add for that reason. Hopefully that was helpful. And Jenny said, all the buttons mean outside to my dogs. Yes, so that's what's so funny is we were so concerned that food would be the obsessive one. But then we have learners who are obsessed with outside. My border collie was obsessed with her ball button. Way more presses of outside and ball than she ever has for her food buttons once I added those. And I was so scared to add a food button for her. No need to have worried. Though again, you all know your learner in your household best. So if they have an unhealthy relationship with food, already and you don't want to tackle that with your initial buttons, totally get it. If you have resource garters in your household, if you have food restrictions, things like that, it might not be worth starting with that button. Or you can save it as a super high value way to motivate them to press if modeling, with other choices isn't getting the job done for them. Yep, and Trish said that's how Starla got started, and what finally got her started pressing was with a treat button. Yep. Yeah, excellent question. So Jenny said, can you do an all done button? How would you use it to get them to tell you when they're all done? Yes. So excellent segue here into some advanced and abstract concepts. So again, we want to start with kind of simple, easy to follow through with, easy to understand concepts and buttons at first. But what happens when your learner presses more than you can say yes to? Or, when you're ready to start adding some abstract concepts down on the board for them. Some early ones might be things like more and all done, yes and no, or now and later. Hi, Domer. And notice that I'm mentioning these in pairs. Whenever possible, adding abstract concepts in opposing pairs that you can model in opposition to one another, this can help it be a bit more understandable for our learners, a bit less abstract. And when you think about, yes, more outside now, we're taking action with the more, with the yes, with the now. In contrast, outside all done, no, you can go out later. Nothing happens. That's a lot more challenging, a lot more confusing for them as a result. So thinking about the pair that you use most, what you might get the most use out of, can be really helpful. So again, more and all done, yes, no, now, later. And for Adora, I began with more and all done as her kind of very early abstract buttons. Once she had her outside and ball and play that she was pressing for so many interactions, I was like, whoa, all right, let's do the more and all done to put the brakes on a little bit. But as I had taught it, all done meant the end of fun. It was the end of a training session. It was the end of outside. So Adora indicated with her body language very quickly thereafter that all done was frustrating. It was not actually helping, even with the more and all done being there at the same time. All done meant the end of fun. So I quickly switched them actually to now and later in her case, since later means yes, just not right now. And that was a far more acceptable answer for my very high drive, enthusiastic border collie. So I share that example as well for you all to know that you can make adjustments. I feel like at this point, board changes and board adjustments are inevitable. We want to be careful not to overwhelm them. We don't want to frustrate them or change things too much, too fast, too soon. But there's going to be times when you put a button down and you realize, that isn't actually the phrase that's most helpful or the word that's most helpful. I had put hungry on the board instead of eat initially because I would ask them, are you hungry all the time? So I thought, oh, hungry. That's the perfect button to put down. And then realized, do you want hungry? Doesn't actually sound, it's not very intuitive. It's not how I talk to them. I say, want to eat. Do you want to eat? Much more often. So eat was what I very quickly switched the button to be instead. But I wouldn't have realized that until I tried to use it, until I tried to model it. So there's going to be times when you realize you need to adjust something. That's totally fine. Just try not to make all the adjustments at once, make slight changes, and model those changes that you're making. Press the button, follow through, show them when you're making those adjustments, and let them be present if they want to be. I don't want them to be waking up from a nap, come over to the board and be like, whoa, it smells different, it looks different, it sounds different after you made adjustments. Let them choose to be present if they want, and then you can make those changes while they're around. And Russell asked as well, does the tone of voice matter? For example, a questioning tone, if you and your pet are making requests of one another, i.e. outside, do you want to go? Yes, I want to go outside. I find tone to be incredibly important. Yes. And Calvin reiterates, absolutely yes. I'm mindful of tone and inflection. And it added that Morgan recorded, that I recorded my help button in a dramatic tone to not only help the learner connect the dots more to make it really nice and distinct, but so that I would respond faster to it. Because I found that if help was being pressed in with a bunch of other presses, I wasn't having as quick of a response, as urgent of a response. So with the button recorded to sound like help, a little bit more dramatic, I hear that help button. I'm like, oh, who needs help? What can I do? Let me go. So that was a good cue for me, in addition to make it distinct for them. So I love using tone to differentiate. Absolutely. Fantastic question there. And there's even times when my mouth will be full, when I'll just be like, Mom, eat, and basically like do the tone of me eating and narrating Mom, eat. No need to do that if you are against talking with your mouth full or grumbling or mumbling with your mouth full. No pressure. I just find that I am constantly trying to articulate, even when I am not able to do so fully. And so in addition to our kind of early abstract pairs, some other things that you can be thinking about too, other abstract concepts include emotions, other household member names, so you can be practicing modeling your name, narrating what you're doing, talking in third person in that way. I like to narrate what my other learners are doing. So, Ash settle right now because he's napping. Bernie went outside because he's laying by the door, looking out and back at me. So narrating all the different things that you're seeing, including emotions. So you see them, full body wiggle, excited, maybe labeling happy there, some kind of a positive emotion. And you can contrast that with a negative emotion, mad, sad, frustrated, something along those lines as well. And so we have the excellent question, how do you model something like help and ouch? Yes. Excellent, excellent. Help is one that I am working on in a variety of ways all the time. If something is stuck between their teeth when they're chewing on a stick, chewing on a toy, Mom, help, and I will remove that. Now that takes time to work up to. Not all of them want you reaching for them, going in, but that was a very relevant recent example. If I notice them scratching in their ear, scratching on their body somewhere, Mom, help, and I'll come over and gently rub that spot or dig in if that's what it seems like they want. If they start groaning, if they lean in, then I'm going to dig in. Mom, help, itch. Mom, help, ear. So if I'm cleaning out their ear, Mom, help, I'm narrating it for that. If there's a toy stuck under the couch, I'm narrating, helping them, Mom, help, toy. Play now after it comes back out. If a treat rolls under a crate, under an appliance in the kitchen or something like that, same thing, jumping in and helping them. So thinking of all the different ways to be assisting them, both with their body and away from their body as well, and having it be positive. That's why I don't want it to be too hands-on medical, especially if they associate that with discomfort. I don't want help to mean discomfort. I want it to be the addition of the human giving assistance in any way. At least for me, that's what it means in my household. And for ouch, actually working on abstract concepts like emotions first is really important to me. So that's where, again, picking out your positive emotion button and negative emotion button at minimum and modeling those in contrast, in opposition to each other. So happy versus mad or sad or frustrated. And the reason why I say that is because the ouch button winds up being a catch-all for negative emotions in a lot of households if there's not a way for them to already express that. I ran into it in my household as well. I was skeptical early on when I started of the usefulness of emotion buttons, the consistency of that sort of thing. I'm like, well, I can tell via their body language overall, generally how they're feeling. That's not something we need a button for. And then my learners began to press ouch when they were frustrated, when they had not just a physical discomfort, but a mental discomfort, frustration, any like me not responding to a press, they'd go over, or telling them later to outside, they'd go press ouch. And so I realized very quickly that we needed some kind of negative emotion button like mad, as it wound up being in our household first. And so I began working on that in addition to the ouch. So the ouch is anytime I'm physically in pain, I'm narrating ouch. Anytime, God forbid, my learners are in pain, same thing. Unfortunately, fortunately, Fortunately, I am in pain more than them. I don't want them in pain. I have chronic pain, so I'm able to narrate my own discomfort a decent amount to them. But if you notice them miss a step while they're walking, maybe paw ouch. If you notice them, digging in, make a sound of discomfort as they're scratching their ear, I'm narrating ouch in that moment. If they're playing and I see them get too rough with each other, if when they came home from being spayed or neutered, that's my primary time a lot when I am narrating it as well. Jenny, excellent question as well. When you say narrate, do you mean pushing the associated buttons or the buttons and your voice? Both. If I'm near the buttons, I am pressing. If there is a button for it, I'm pressing in addition to talking to them. But with advanced concepts like an ouch, long before there's an ouch button on the board, anytime I'm just out in the world with my learners, I'm narrating, I'm talking about what it is I'm saying. I'm trying to label using consistent language what it is that they're doing. Excellent question. Thank you for asking me to clarify that. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense for everybody. Let me know if you have further questions, more clarifications. I can clearly talk about buttons all day. I love talking about this stuff. Hopefully I didn't get too in the weeds for you guys with that. And remember, this is not going to be your only opportunity to get help with all of this too. We have our ongoing mentorship calls, and I'll show you where you can find more resources right after we talk about target training here. All right, so you are modeling, you're narrating, you're talking to them all the time. You've chosen motivating buttons. You know that your learners want to press it, but they haven't yet figured out how to activate the button themselves, or one of your learners has, but the others haven't yet. That's okay. That's where target training can come in handy and really help them connect the dots that they can activate the button too, that it's not just for the human to press and everybody to then follow through with. So our first link, and Irma added them to the chat as well. Thank you so much. Our first one is with Alexis and Bunny. And this is great for larger learners, dogs in particular. And a shortcut from this video, I'm going to go ahead and highlight my screen here so everybody can see better. Oh, hello, Delmar. Highlight from Alexis and Bunny's video. If you can, just pop the button out of the hex tile and put it in the palm of your hand for a learner who already has a high five cue, or put it in the palm of your hand, cue them to do a nose touch, or cue them to shake. If they already have a way to high five, nose touch, shake, something like that, totally fine to just pull that button out of the hex tile, cue them to do that high five, whatever it is, and then follow through. They're still making those connections, and we're able to kind of do that rapid association, that pairing between button press and the activity, but this time it's them initiating it instead of us pressing and following through. The next two, the cat school button pressing and the button targeting tutorial, are great for smaller learners. Learners who need help getting a weight shift to press, which is very common in cats. If you think about how they naturally interact with the world, it's a lot of batting at things, right? It's a lot of tapping, sniffing with a lot of dogs as well. So it makes sense that they wouldn't necessarily fully activate the button, that they're just exploring it other ways. That's great though. Any progress of napping near the board, tapping at the buttons, sniffing at them, we love to see it. When in doubt, help them out. So if you see them trying to activate it, just hanging near a button, staring at it, being like, I know there's a way to make this happen. When in doubt, help them out. Just go ahead, press it for them. Bernie won't play, and since Bernie is active, I'm just going to make sure that, yes, okay, since I'm pressing, that I'm going to go ahead and follow through and offer what it is that I'm pressing, because I want to keep that consistent for them, right? And so, especially if you can time it to where your learner's tapping at the top of the button and you press the button at the same time they're touching it, that can really give them effective, quick, tactile feedback to let them know that they did press it, that they need to feel it move. If it's a connect button, then it's going to light up and they get that feedback. If it's a speak up or a classic button, then the speaker is in the button and they'll feel it vibrate in addition to it moving underneath of their paw. And so that can really just reiterate that button equals the outcome. and that's what we're looking for, and that they can make the outcome happen too. It's not just for the humans. That's helpful. And Ashley asked, when you have a general button like play and then go to add additional or more specific toy buttons, do you recommend modeling play and then the specific toy, or just switching over to the individual toy for that type of play? Another great question. I do like to model the general play first to help them connect the dots even more. So I would model the general play and then press the specific one. And you can also, for anybody who has a learner who's not yet pressing independently, you can utilize something like dragging a toy across the play button, for a dog or a cat, and see if you can capture an accidental press that way for them, so that as they're chasing it and batting after it, you might get a press that you can follow through with that way as well. Yeah, thank you. That question helped remind me to say that. So thank you for multiple reasons, Ashley. Already said this is extremely helpful. Oh, thank you. 3 other kitties, Chris, our little gray kitty, Aspen, our orange tabby, and Zora, our little tabby that's head of the house. I'm truly excited to see them all use the buttons and make everybody happier. I'm thrilled to hear that. Let me share where you all can find additional resources real quick here, and then we'll open it up to more Q&A. I know there's a couple more in the chat right now, and we'll see what additional questions you all have in a moment. But please don't be strangers, and please utilize the fantastic resource that is community.fluent.pet, where we are right now for our button bootcamp. Let me share this tab instead. So within the community, this community has 4.5+ years worth of people's experiences, questions, wins, all of the above. So much great information. Under the welcome area, for those of you who love to have step-by-step, in-depth information, if that's you, this portion right here with tons of info is for you. We also have announcements, community events that are great to keep up with. FAQs, there's 41 of these last I checked. Yeah. So if you have a problem at 3 a.m. and you can always still ask it. We have people around the world in the community who love talking about buttons. So by all means, you can always make a post, but you can also take a peek and see, has somebody else had a similar question before? You're probably not alone. Under the Button Bootcamp section here, Events Button Bootcamp, this is where you can see all the upcoming bootcamps. If you would like to repeat bootcamp, you are always welcome to come back. I love to have people come back, hear how things are going, see how we can improve things. If you have a household member that you would like to attend that wasn't able to make it tonight, or you missed part of tonight, by all means, sign up for another one. We'd love to have you. You can also switch upcoming to past, and then you can find recordings of previous boot camps, including tonight's. As soon as we finish up, that should be there for you as well. Under mentorship calls, the next event tab, these are our specific topics where we can, and all the May ones are about to be posted, but you can see the previous ones that we had just before tonight's call. We had body language and communication, because it's always an and, right? We're listening to both. It's not just buttons. The more we can honor all of the ways they're communicating with us, the more conversations we have. And one of my favorite types of button presses are the ones where, they press to get my attention and then walk me to what it is that they want, especially if they don't yet have a button for it. That's an incredibly valid use of their board. It's a beautiful combination of tools and really shows such a strong understanding to me in that way. Anyway, I know some people think like, oh, they walked away from the buttons. That's not as good. It's phenomenal. I love that they're communicating in any way, shape, or form. And a quick note with the target training, those of you who saw Bernie pressing in the beginning saw that he's a shoulder presser. Target training can help them develop whatever skill set, whatever style of pressing they want, whether it's nose press, paw press, sitting on the buttons. Again, as long as they're not frustrated and you can understand them, we'll take it. And we also have target training specific mentorship calls that we've done in the past and should have upcoming as well. multi-learner households, all this fun stuff. Cat specific, what to do if they're interrupting you, which I see that question, we'll talk about it. But we also have a whole 45-minute call that I'm sure we'll have scheduled in the future devoted to that topic as well. Under the resources section, this is where you can find links to those learning centers, those paw targeting tutorials that we shared or that Irma shared in the chat. We also have a soundboard planning tool if you're the type that wants to have an idea of where things are going. Just know that our plans often need to change, and let your learner be your guide. Let them tell you what they're interested in and kind of build your board out from there. And so for one of my cats, that's food right now. I'm getting very specific with her food requests. For my other guy, it's adventures. Walk, creek, depending on where he wants to go walk on different adventures. So let them be your guide. We have discussion if you have longer questions and different topics that we'll post there. Some really great info that's been shared. And then we also have chat. If you've got a quick question, anything like that, feel free to utilize. So much great info through here. One thing that I just want to highlight, the show off your soundboard portion. If you're looking for inspiration, there are as many layouts as there are households and soundboards out there. So sometimes it's more island style where they can walk in between smaller hextile groups. Sometimes it's, a nice, like more cockpit style. Here's that soundboard planning tool in use while you're deciding what kind of layout you want for your learner, what kind of layout they're interested in. You can always make adjustments. No need to commit to anything immediately. Typically starting off with one button per hex tile, even for smaller learners, can be helpful. And then you can always adjust and change from there. Having the soundboard in a central location that's easy to get to, convenient for you to model and for your learners to be pressing tends to be best. And even if you choose a space-saving corner design like what Sasha did here, that can be tough for some of our learners if it's only directly up against a wall because they're not able to watch us while they're pressing. A lot of them want that feedback. They want to know that we're about to respond. So Sasha left enough room for her learners to get behind the board and press that way. So be thinking about different layouts in that regard. Yeah, Bernie says no play. Delmer play with cat toy. Delmer play. All right. So hopefully that's helpful for utilizing the resources there. Let me turn on the lights. I did not realize that I was losing so much light here. And I see some great questions coming through. Let me share the presentation real quick. Show a couple more resources that we have for you guys. And we'll dive back in. So in addition to all the great free resources that I just shared, we have the Let's Get Them Pressing course. Hi, buddy. The Let's Get Them Pressing course is a 4-week small cohort group class with live coaching as well as asynchronous materials. It's taught by Diane of Neurodag Training, and Alexis often is guest coaching and teaching as well. The next one starts in a few weeks, so highly recommend signing up if interested in that. And you do have a 25% off the course coupon code that was added to the chat. That does not expire. Thank you, Irma, for adding that. That's some of the great topics we cover. I contributed to some of the cat portion of the general course, and be on the lookout for a cat-specific course in the future, hopefully near future, next month as well. And then if anybody's realizing that you need more buttons or hex tiles or anything like that, we have a 15% off coupon code that's good for everything at FluentPet. That code was just added to chat as well. Thank you so much, Irma. That includes the connect buttons. And if you have any feedback for us, always looking to improve. We'd love to hear any feedback. That'll be in the chat as well. Thank you. All right. So let's dive into more questions. I'll start with what already came through, and then feel free as well to raise your hand if you wanted to chat through anything, or you can type it out as well. All right, so we have the first button I want to train Ziva on is ball. Would you recommend that I press it every time I throw the ball, a certain amount of times per play session, or just once at the start? Another excellent question. And Calvin said, as much as possible. We press our toy button before, after, and during. Yep, same here. In this case, he uses Jason's feather toys, drag the ball over the board or hover them over the button to try to get an accidental press to follow through on as well. Yeah, and so I'll be saying play, I'll be narrating, I'll press it and be following through multiple times. Yeah, absolutely. And if you're not right there by the board, that's okay. You know, be verbally narrating or gradually kind of move your play session back towards the board so you can be pressing it. Jenny asks, how do you handle when they're being pushy? I work from home and there are times I cannot follow through. Totally get it. Should I close myself in a bedroom or crate the dogs so they don't try to interrupt my conference calls? Calvin said I opted for moving the board to where I could restrict access without removing the buttons and taking away my learner's voice. So we also started verbally modeling Calvin busy, Calvin work, things like that, when I'm only able to verbally acknowledge. And so now Jason uses the all done button to tell Calvin to get off the laptop. Often, if Katie were not outside right now, she would be telling me all done if I weren't following through on her presses or giving her enough attention as a result as well. Yeah, so definitely utilizing something like the more and all done or the now and later, working on those boundaries, thinking about as many different things that you can say yes to or that don't require as much work on your part to say yes to, like those puzzles, having them ready to go. But full disclosure, yes, my border collie Adora is graded right now because she would be pressing a lot. She's very persistent and it would settle and be like, oh, okay, you're working, you're busy, and would go settle for maybe 5 minutes and then come over and be like, how about now? Outside now? And so for that reason, I either gate her away or crate her away when I know that I can't be reinforcing just because of who she is. Whereas my cats are much better at hearing no or later or all done or being given an alternative and accepting it. Although I say that, and sometimes Katie is very persistent behind me while I'm teaching. Yeah, and definitely using like an X pen to manage as well. Yeah. Thank you. Great question. And thank you, Calvin. And then Trish asked, Starla's two buttons are treat and outside, which she presses purposefully, but she sometimes spams treat. For her next word, I was thinking of adding YouTube because she really loves watching bird videos on YouTube. I love that. Yes. Another good choice might be puzzle, which might be good for the too much treat spam and as a different option. Food and water might be good too. She might just be hungry instead of wanting treats. I think it's too soon to do more and all done or yes and no. Yeah. And so I might challenge you. Let's try YouTube and puzzle. If that's not too overwhelming for you, knowing that she's independently pressing that treat and the outside buttons already and purposefully, yeah, maybe trying both. That way you can follow through with the puzzle. And puzzle and treat, I know, are similar, but they are two different aspects of food. So that can be useful. But I love the YouTube for your cat TV option there. That's very distinct, unique use case. And so you can be more, clearly showing, very different activities with different buttons, but also subtle differences in puzzle, working for food or a licky mat or frozen something as opposed to just treat. And then it's up to you if you change treat down the line to a general eat for other things. So it can be used for meal times or perhaps a training button so that there's an extra step in there. It's not just press button equals treat, but it initiates a training session between you two. So she's working for her treats that way. That can be another adjustment, or you just leave it. That totally works too. Up to you, up to Starla, and what's motivating for you all. Yeah, report back after adding both, how things go. I hope, to see you at another mentorship call in the future. It was great to have you at the one right before this. I said one more question. No need to apologize. I love talking about buttons. As do we've all of us here from FluentPet. So eventually I want to be able to train Ziva between me, herself, and other family members in the household. How is that concept trained? Yes. So we have a great link for you all with teaching names. Here we go. Bring that to the chat for you. And whether you're a single human household or not, just that reiteration. Jennifer, one of our guides and mentorship uh, instructors, she likes to do what she calls a tea party. So she'll practice, with a little bowl of food, something, especially if it's like cheese or chicken that she enjoys eating as well. She'll call her learners over and work on, Jennifer, eat and take a bite, and then go one at a time for her different learners at practicing, narrating, you eat, me, with their individual names. So in my household, it would be Ash eat, as I'm feeding him, just to really help drive that home. And Irma added the tea party. Thank you. So practicing just that narration, those differences. When they're sniffing each other, I'll narrate who's sniffing who. When they're grooming each other, depending on, just different activities they're doing. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful. And then if you know that you've got a friend coming over later, or, a different dog or something like that, or different cat visiting. I know cats visit less on average, but you never know. Telling them, that name later or whatever concept, something really unique, distinct like that, telling them ahead of time so they can start to anticipate it, and then narrating, as they arrive throughout the visit. And then you're working not only on the name, but the concept of later, and just teaching them again, reiterating that what you're saying is important, it has value, there's distinction, and that the more they listen in, the more info they're going to receive. And that they can communicate it back with their buttons too. Hopefully that was helpful. Any additional questions while we're together? I don't see any hands. I don't see any typing, but I'll hang out another minute in case anybody does think of any additional questions or follow-up questions. I did want to just thank you all so much for being here tonight, for all of your fantastic questions. Truly, I had a blast with you all. I love how interactive you were. Sometimes it feels like I'm just talking to a screen, and it did not feel like that at all tonight with you all. So thank you. Thank you, Calvin and Irma, as always, for being here, for all of your help and feedback and answering questions. Again, please don't be strangers, y'all. We love talking about buttons. We love helping folks, no matter where you're at in your button teaching journey. So be on the lookout for those mentorship calls as soon as those are posted again. We'd love to have you at a future boot camp in the meantime. I'll be on the lookout in the forums for you as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for your messages here, guys. We so appreciate you. Best of luck on your button teaching journey, but you don't need luck. You know your learner best. You know your household. You know what they need. Go with your gut and have fun. Have fun with this. All right, y'all. Thanks so much again. Bye.